You know how it feels scary to put yourself out there and be real and be authentic? Yeah. You know why? It's because you don't know who the fuck you are. Welcome to Code Switch Rebellion. This is the unfiltered podcast for Black women who are done shrinking, chasing perfection, and performing professionalism in their own business. I'm Melanie L. Denny, aka Melly D, personal branding consultant and the identity strategist. This is where we talk about what it really takes to build a personal brand rooted in who you are, not who you were conditioned to be. Round here, we have real, raw conversations about what it means to show up with integrity, authority, and bold authenticity so you can attract better clients and bigger opportunities. Let's get into it. So we're going to be digging deep into this episode, y'all, because surface won't suffice. We going to have to dig deep on this. When you don't know who the fuck you are, everything becomes negotiable. Everything is unclear and you become whoever you need to be in the moment. And that is a problem. When we talk about being boldly authentic and owning who you are and being confident and being visible, we tend to skip the foundation, which is a strong sense of self. That is knowing who you are, knowing what you stand for, knowing what you will and will not negotiate. You're not borrowing identities, you're not chasing perfection, and you damn for sure ain't shape-shifting for approval. That's not what we're doing. So in this episode, I'm going to be sharing my own identity crisis, child, and what really cracked that thing wide open. I'm going to explain why a strong sense of self is a non-negotiable when it comes to personal branding. And I'm going to give you 3 practical ways to start building your own strong sense of self. So let's get into this thing. So, growing up, I was always the life of the party. I always had jokes. I was always bold in your face, talking shit. I was just free, right? And so years ago, I started the resume business. Now, if you know me, you've heard of me, you've seen me, you've been following me, you know I had a resume business for a long time, probably like 14, 15 years. And when I started that business, I shut down my Facebook, okay, because I had to protect my brand. Remember that commercial? Anyway, and I closed my Facebook and I was like, y'all, don't tag me in no craziness because I'm a professional now. And what I didn't realize is that I had taken on a brand new identity for myself. And I immersed myself in that thing, baby. I wanted to be the best of the best. I wanted to be known as a resume writer. So much so, I sacrificed everything else about who I was, right? I was no longer the life of the party. I was the one that's going to get you hired, right? And that was all good and fine. And I stepped into that identity and I became who I thought I needed to be to build that business, right? Code switching all over the place, having bland colors, putting on my professional voice, right? Wore my pencil skirts and my blazers. I didn't even go nowhere if it wasn't about networking and business. And even if I was somewhere, I made it into networking and business. And baby, when I had my babies, I had a set of twins in 2018. And whoo, baby, I got diagnosed with postpartum depression. And even during the pregnancy, I was really, really, really depressed. I didn't want to do this work anymore. And even outside of work and business, I just didn't know who Mel was. I couldn't work because I just was sick all day, every day. I couldn't even cook dinner. I had to cook dinner on a stool because standing up for too long, I was out of breath. Like it was really, really, really bad. And that's when I had an identity crisis because I was like, without work, without being able to move and shake in the house, what the hell was I good for? I was worthless. That's what I thought. And I remember reading a book called Uncloned Life. Shout out to Audra Richmond. If you are listening or somehow get wind of this, thank you for all that you do. You are phenomenal and you have inspired me more than you know. But I read that book and I remember reading that book in the closet on the floor and crying my eyes out. Now, if you know me personally, baby, you know I'm not a crier. This thing had me messed up. And in the process of building my business, I realized I lost myself completely. It was to the point where I didn't know how to dress for myself if it wasn't business. My whole closet was just business attire. I didn't know how to be fun anymore. Like, who the fuck was Mel? I literally had an identity crisis, y'all. And that's when my journey of self-discovery began again. Because prior to all of this, I knew exactly who I was. And that was something I remember one of my colleagues when I was in corporate said to me, like, Mel, you know exactly who you are. And I love that. And I always have. I've always been confident. I always knew I'm doing that. I'm not doing that. And it was easy for me to move through life. When I took on this new identity, I became who I thought the world needed me to be in order to be successful. And I sacrificed myself in the process. And the work that I do now is so personal to me, right? Because all the Black women that I work with have similar stories of conforming and putting on such an act that they have lost themselves in the process. Now, many of them have not lost themselves outside of work like I did, because my whole life was centered around resume writing. But when it comes to anything professional, they are this person that is not who they really are. They become this other version of themselves, and anything outside of that is unacceptable. And we've taken on these identities that we think that the world needs from us in order to, get their approval, in order to get their admiration, and in order to get their money. I was doing it for money. I wanted these, corporate clients to pay me. I wanted them to pay me big dollars. And because I wasn't an executive myself and I didn't know much about climbing that corporate ladder because I wasn't interested, I was never interested, I just cosplayed. I was like, okay, this is kind of how they talk based on TV and based on the corporate experience I did have, right? I could put on a pretty decent act. And baby, I see it all the time. And Black women in business have an identity crisis, especially the ones coming from a corporate background. And that is a problem. You know why it's a problem? Because when you have lived disconnected from yourself for long enough, it's going to cost you your clarity of who you are. And when we do that, everything becomes negotiable. We're all over the place. We don't know who we are, so we don't know what decisions to make. And really, you just are lost. Like I was lost, completely lost. And my situation is probably a bit extreme, but there's some version of that going on in the clients that I see all the time. Now, here's the good thing. The identity crisis thing that we have going on, it's okay. It's just a misalignment, right, between who you are and who you've been performing to be. And it can be fixed. It can be fixed. But knowing who you are as you build your business, as you build a personal brand, is not an option. It's not optional because it is so important. And we're going to dig into why it's so important. So first of all, let's talk about what it means to even have a strong sense of self, right? So it really is about having a secure and authentic understanding of your own identity and what makes up your identity, right? That's the real question here. Your identity is made up of your values, your beliefs, right? It's knowing your strengths, it's knowing your weaknesses, it's knowing and acting in alignment with your beliefs versus conforming for others, right? It's having a strong sense of awareness. But then to take all of that a step further, it's about accepting who you are, right? Accepting, hey, I don't like this, and so I'm not going to do it, right? I had a moment, this is very personal. I had a moment with my husband maybe last year. And we used to watch this show. It's called Chopped. He's into cooking. He's like, that's his jam. He loves all things cooking. I do not. He's the primary chef in our house because I don't like cooking. I'm not that great at it. I be winging that thing, baby. And so we used to watch Chopped all the time. But you know why we watched Chopped? It was because he liked to watch Chopped and I liked him. So I'm going to watch what you're watching because I like you. And I had to tell him one night, I said, babes, I don't like this show. I don't like this show. And I just want you to know I only watch it because you watch it. If I was ever here by myself and I scroll through and I see it on, I'm not going to turn it on. So it's just about having the confidence and the self-awareness to know what you like, what you don't like, what your personality traits are, and accepting them without needing to be perfect. Now, was he going to leave me because I don't like Chop? No, but he was very concerned because this whole entire time he thought I liked Chop. He's like, what else don't you like? Right? But it was just a tiny moment of clarity for me. Like, this show is okay. I don't hate the show. Now, if I hated it, I would never watch it, but it was okay. But it wasn't a preference of mine. And that's okay. And he still loves me the same. The thing about this is when you have a strong sense of self, you're not looking for other people to define your worth, to define you, right? And you're comfortable in your own skin. You're comfortable in your identity and your uniqueness. And being able to withstand people who criticize you or people who tell you negative things about yourself, you're already aware because having a strong sense of self comes with that level of self-awareness. I think it's important that we have this so we're not easily swayed or manipulated or feel the need to conform or perform or act in a certain way just because we feel like that's what other people want from us. And I talk about this. I made this into an episode because I really feel like this is something so many of us have not done. We have not done this work. I was forced to do the work because I didn't know what I was going to do next. Resume writing was all I knew when it came to business, professional, how to make money. That was it. But little did I realize I had tons and tons of skills, tons and tons of transferable skills. And the branding piece is what I did for corporates. I did this for corporate folks, help them figure out what their unique value was, help them to show themselves how valuable they were and how they were unique, and using that to their advantage to get job opportunities and promote themselves and market themselves and all of those things. That I love that part of it, right? What I didn't like is the corporate piece because I never believed in climbing that corporate ladder. But the piece that kept me there for that long was the part where people would say, oh my goodness, is this me? Yeah, that's all you, babes. Show me the lie. Show me the lie, right? I'm just stating facts. And so when it comes to this personal branding stuff, it's not easy, especially in the way that I teach it, because I want you to build a personal brand centered around who you are, not who you were conditioned to be, because that is the piece that we're missing. That is the special sauce that's really going to turn us all the way up and attract our people and get bigger opportunities and better clients, is sharing who we are, why we do the work we do, how we operate, our unique way of doing it. And when we put ourselves out there in that way, baby, the trolls, the internet bullies, the haters, they're all waiting for you to show up just to drag you down. If you start showing up and putting yourself out there, they will come out and they're coming for you. But if you've done this work and you already know who you are, accepted who you are, honor who you are, know your insecurities, know your weaknesses. If you know all of this about yourself and you accept it, yeah, you ain't feeding into that bullshit. You're not feeding into it. You're not feeding into it because you've already addressed these things. You know what you stand for. You know what you're all about, and you know what your value is. So this is why this is so important, right? You'll be way more confident in yourself. You'll make way better decisions because knowing what you want, knowing who you are, you easily recognize what's not a good fit for you, what's out of alignment for you, easily. And that self-awareness piece is really about, if you do make a decision that's out of alignment, you feel it. You feel it in your bones. You feel it like, there's something, it's a no for me, dog, right? And that confidence and that authenticity, it beams off of you. And that energy is undeniable. And that's who I was. I was the life of the party because I was just being me, right? I was just being who I was. I was just free. I was comfy in my own skin and I wanted to be different. And so that's why it is so important, because once you build a strong sense of self, baby, it is magical. It is a game changer, especially for your personal brand and your business. I got a quick question for you. Do you keep attracting the wrong clients or no clients at all? Something's going wrong with your personal brand, boo. And it's okay, but before you can fix it, you gotta really know what's going on. You gotta assess and see what needs to be fixed so you can take the next best steps. If you're ready to get off that struggle bus and stop winging it, book a digital brand audit. This is a personalized deep dive on how you're showing up online. We dive into what's working, what's missing, and what's really holding you back from those opportunities and those clients that you know you deserve. Book your digital brand audit today. So, how do you actually build a strong sense of self? Especially, if you're coming out of corporate, spending years and years and years of editing yourself and putting on this act and being who you think they need you to be, or probably who they actually do need you to be. How do you do that? Well, the first step, I think, is naming what's yours. Basically knowing and understanding, who am I? What is my true beliefs? The beliefs that I chose versus the beliefs that I inherited or absorbed from somewhere else. And somewhere else, baby, is everywhere. Your parents, society, your job, your family, your friend group. It's coming from all over the place. Media, TV shows, movies. It's coming from everywhere, right? And so what are the beliefs that you chose that are true to you? And what are the beliefs that maybe I got that from somewhere else, right? Identify, is this mine, or was I conditioned to believe this about myself? Now that's deep work right there. That alone is deep, deep work. Okay. If you do this and you recognize some things, let me know so I can send you the bill for therapy. Thanks. But it's a very, very, very deep exercise, because the things that you think are yours actually came from somewhere else. Imagine, I thought I was supposed to be a doctor. I was a doctor. I was going to be a doctor. My mom put that in me from I was a little girl. I was born in Barbados. I left that island when I was 9 years old. Before I left there, I knew I was going to be a doctor. That wasn't mine. That was not mine. That was my mom's dream. That was my mom's belief. And it wasn't until I got to college and was a bio major that I realized I don't want to do this shit. I don't want to do this. So that's a good example of like beliefs about yourself that came from elsewhere that you need to really check and make sure is yours. The second thing that you could do is, once you understand that, let your identities and your true core beliefs be the lead decision-making factor, right? So instead of saying, oh, what should I do? Should I do this or should I do that? Think about, what would someone who is me, like me, do? You know how they say, what would Jesus do, right? Because we knew who he was, how he moved, how he operated, his beliefs, etc. Once you know and understand your beliefs and who you are, you've done this work, then you could say, well, what would Mel do? Right? And allow that to lead your decisions. Is this something that is in alignment with my beliefs, my values, my goals, my desires, etc.? If it's, I don't think so, then it's a hard no, right? So definitely want to make sure that you lead your decisions with this identity. The next thing is practice self-honor, meaning honor yourself in small ways, right? Honor how you speak. So when you walk into a room and someone says hi, are you going to say hello? Are you going to say, sir? That ain't how you talk. It's going to be, hey, how you doing? Right? Be your own bubbly self and honor how you speak. Honor what it is that you want. Honor what it is that you believe. Honor your values, right? My number one value is freedom. And baby, corporate life wasn't for me. And so I just never went back. I got laid off and I was like, yeah, I'm not doing that. And it's been a journey, but that is who I am. I am not to be controlled. I am someone who is not to be controlled. I am someone who wants to be free to do what they want when they want, to be able to live how she wants to live, right? So honoring those things and continuing to honor those things and recognizing when you get that twinge that says, I don't really like this. Maybe diving deep and saying, well, why not? And then realizing this is why. Yeah, it's a no for me, dog. Right? That's how you honor yourself. Okay. Now, what the hell does all this have to do with personal branding? Because when you show up as yourself, your business is going to flourish. When you infuse who you are into your business and what you sell and the services you provide and the value that you offer, people are going to get it. Your people are going to resonate with you. Your energy is going to attract the people that you want to work with, right? Why you think they say your vibe attracts your tribe, right? And I can tell you this firsthand because after I decided to kind of leave resume writing, by the way, when I decided I didn't want to stay, it took me 4 years to get out. Yeah, 4 years to actually close the doors and say no more. And so within that transitionary time, I started a group called Society of Elite Resume Writers. Shout out to SERW. And those set of women taught me that I could be who I was, baby, and they loved me for it. I am real. I am raw. You know, I've been called a bitch. I've been called rude. I've been called disrespectful. I've also been called inspirational. But those group of ladies, they loved me for who I was. They loved me for it. And that's when I realized, damn, it's people out here who love me being me. I really don't have to do all this extra shit to try to act like. Just show up as your Detroit raised island girl vibe, and people will love you for it, and people will want to be in your space, and people will want to hire you. So if you feel like, you know what, Mel, this makes a lot of sense, but I still feel like I can't show up fully as myself in business because it's unprofessional, quote unquote, the next episode is for you. We're going to really dive deep into this term unprofessional, where it came from, what it's rooted in, and really figure out, are you unprofessional for real, or is that something else at play? Remember, your identity is the strategy. I'll see y'all next time. If this episode sparked something in you and you want to continue the conversation, join me over on Substack. I would love to hear your thoughts on today's topic. Till next time, y'all, remember, your identity is the strategy.